clean though, it's not that bad. In the last video, I talked about 5 things I love about my Subaru. Well, now I'm gonna go over the negative, and I'm gonna go over 5 things I hate about my Subaru. Now don't get me wrong, I love my car, and I'm a big fan of the GC8 model. There's a few things I'm upset about, but it doesn't mean it's a bad car. I love this car, okay? Don't get me wrong. Now, for example, like the first thing that I hate about it is gonna be a little minor one. So a friend of mine on Instagram, who's also another Subaru 2.5 RS enthusiast, like reminded me about something in a post that I put on there, right? And what is that? That is these cup holders. They're really flimsy. Things are always moving around. Just to get a nice tight fit, I have to put something there and then I have to kind of push it in a little bit just to kind of tighten it. But for example, this is the only one you have here. The other one is really stupid, but it's inside the armrest here. There's a little thing in there, but how are you gonna put a cup in there if you have to put your arm on there if you're gonna start shifting? Otherwise I can barely shift, and it's gonna have to be shifting at an awkward angle because my elbow has to avoid a cup that I have over here, right? So that's like the first thing I don't like. It's the cup holders. Shout out to Brandon Kunimura. I hope I said it right. Kunimura, my bad. I don't know, you can correct me, bro. Number 2. Now this second one isn't exactly for every Subaru 2.5 RS out there. It's not for every model that I like my car. This second one is distinctly for my car itself. And what that is I have to work on the electricals in this car a little bit. Why? Because if I like adjust the dimness on here for my cluster gauges here, it doesn't adjust the dimness. It stays at like a low level. It doesn't adjust. Another thing is my side view mirrors. If I go ahead and I hit the switch in the center here, in the center console, to adjust them, it doesn't do anything. They don't move either. So I feel like that's something electrical for my car that I have to work on. But like I said, it's not for every Subaru model of mine's out there. Alright, that's just me personally with this car. Another Subaru. Number 3. Well, here's the thing. Some imported cars don't get the most out of them, right? And what I mean by that is, in Japan, back in the 90s and early 2000, Subaru has a WRX STI version of this car, right? And a WRX as well. Now, the funny thing is, when they import it to the US, we don't get to have that. So this car was brought to the US before, you know, Subaru wanted to bring any WRX or any STIs over here to the US. So this car just has a naturally aspirated 2.5 liter boxer 4, right? There's no turbo. One of the biggest and most popular things that people do to these cars is they go ahead and they swap out the engine with either like a EJ205 or 207 or even a 257, you know? They'll swap it out with either a WRX or an STI engine from like a newer model year. Usually between like 2002 to 2006, 2007, right? And they put in the 6-speed because this is only a 5-speed. Because nothing screams badass like being rated at 164 horsepower rather than 240 to 300, right? So that's one of the biggest things that people do to these cars when they get them. They go ahead and swap the engine out. Number 4, for me personally, has got to be the 5-speed manual. I would prefer 6. Reason being though is I could be cruising on the highway just like I'm doing now, and I'm going about 60, 65, right around there, and I'm already a little over 3,000 RPMs the whole time, just kind of going. You know, I'd love to have the 6th gear so I could just cruise. At the best, I could be cruising at this speed, not revving high up, so I wouldn't hear a lot of drone. It shouldn't be too annoying for me at times. I just personally like having the 6-speed transmission. One, the 6-speed from the STI is a little more durable from my understanding, especially when it comes to power output. Like eventually when I swap out the engine, last thing I want to do is keep this transmission, right? I'm gonna have to swap out for a 6-speed so it can handle more of the power, especially if I'm doing an STI engine. Of course, you know, if you swap out a WRX engine, WRXs still have 5 speeds in there, but people also do swap the 6 speeds into them. So doing that is going to play with the gear ratio and everything, so there's gonna be more I'd have to swap out. Like if I do the engine, I'm gonna have to go ahead and swipe out the transmission, the whole drivetrain, and the CV boots and the axles, all that, just to make sure everything's working properly. Last thing I want to do is not adjust the gear ratios or do it incorrectly, and then I start busting the differentials, you know? Number 5 makes this kind of like a double-edged sword. What I mean by that is the weight of the car. So I don't know the exact weight. I have to look that up. I haven't looked it up, so I don't know the exact weight of this vehicle, of this car. But I do know it definitely is a benefit to have a lighter car. That way the power to weight ratio is greater, and you can like accelerate faster, you can move faster, you can go, right? So that's good. It's a bad thing in a way, to the point where this car is so light. Like on my way to work, this road that I'm taking, like past me over there, strong winds, and not so much strong winds, blow this car around to the side all the time. Especially strong winds, this car shakes around, right? Because of how light it is. It's already small, it's compact, but also the weight doesn't help with that either. I do like it being lighter for performance reasons, but it is a little annoying when there's strong winds going around, especially here in Minnesota. So like I said, these are just the 5 things for me personally. Doesn't mean every model of this car out there. It's just me. Those are my 5 reasons. You don't have to agree with it, or you can agree with it. It's up to you. And like I said, I love this car. This is my favorite car. Well, I have a lot of favorite cars, but nonetheless, I love this model Subaru. Those are 5 little things, but you know what? Those are all things that can be fixed as well. Go ahead and drop down in the comments your 5 things that you love and hate.